Okay guys, let's go straight into it. After like 20 minutes of technical issues, we finally got to the second video. Let's go learn World War II Oversimplified, hell yeah. I learned this in school, but I got a bit bored, but hopefully I won't get a bit bored here.
And he had an This video was made possible by Skillshare.
I really do.
Churchill was a man with many talents. He was an artist, a butterfly enthusiast, and he had an unpublished manuscript about aliens.
He looks kind of...
Clearly he was a man with an insatiable thirst for knowledge. Maybe he could have loaded up his computer and logged onto Skillshare, an online learning community with more than 19,000 classes in design, business, technology, and more. Perhaps he was considering a side career in fashion, but didn't know where to start. On Skillshare, he would find courses in fashion design and garment construction. Or if he wanted to learn app design, improve his photography, or just how to make a really good quesadilla,
I didn't learn
he
this in
found
school.
courses for all of these and more on Skillshare. Skillshare gives you access to high-quality classes taught by genuine experts working.
I was like, this dude, did he start World War II with a little pan making eggs and
these and more on Skillshare. Skillshare gives you access to high-quality classes taught by genuine experts working.
Ad block.
It's 1902. A young man by the name of Benito Mussolini moved from Italy to Switzerland to avoid military service. He gets big into socialism, working
What's his name? Sorry, I just need to focus.
It's 1902. A young man by the name of Benito Mussolini moves from Italy to Switzerland to avoid military service.
It all started from you.
He gets big into socialism, working for trade unions, writing for socialist newspapers, advocating a violent overthrow of European monarchies, the whole shebang. This gets him in a bit of trouble with the Swiss police, so he gets arrested, sent back to Italy, set free, returns to Switzerland, is arrested again, goes back to Italy again, completes his military service after previously avoiding it, and then after a brief stint as an elementary school teacher, he finally returns to work as an avid socialist. His speeches and journalistic abilities made him famous among Italian socialists. He was anti-war, so when Italy colonized Libya in 1910, he rioted and got arrested. Then World War I came along, and once again he protested Italy's involvement. But then he thought, wait a minute, this war could bring about the social climate needed to overthrow European monarchies and bring about the socialist revolution everywhere. And suddenly he was pro-war. But his fellow socialists didn't like his new pro-war stance, so they kicked him out of the party. So
Who
then he
even
said,
is
you know
pro-war?
what?
Are people pro-war?
We need something.
That's crazy. That's absolutely mad. That's heartless. Pro-war? Nobody wants to see that.
Stance, so they kicked him out of the party. So then he said, you know what? I'm done with socialism. We need something new, not based on class divisions tearing us apart, but based on unity through nationality. We'll conquer the Mediterranean and reunite all Italian peoples, just like the days of the Roman Empire. I'll call it fascismo, and it will guide the Italian nation to greatness. That's all well and good, Mr. Mussolini, but what kind of haircut am I giving you? Let's go with...
Yeah, he looks so serious.
Bold.
Bold? Bold? Oh my god, he looks crazy. Half bold-ish. Okay, fully bold now. Why does he have crazy eyes like this? Oversimplified. World War II.
Italy had been on the winner's side in World War I, and they hoped they were going to get a lot out of it, but in the end, they only got a little, and they felt cheated. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant
they're basically saying they did it for money and gaining stuff.
Were a little unhappy. So when Mussolini came along and said that he could fix everything, his fascist movement gained a lot of support. In 1922, he went to the king and said, make me prime minister, or I'll make me prime minister.
Damn, was that easy?
And what army?
Where's your qualifications? Oh.
Fair enough.
They're all bold.
Then he went about establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had its first fascist dictator. Next up, Germany. Germany had been on the loser's side, and they got absolutely wrecked by the Treaty of Versailles. They lost territory, had to demilitarize the Rhineland, had to reduce their army to just 100,000 men, couldn't have an air force, had to pay the Allies a huge amount of money that it didn't have, and a new rule was established that every Englishman withheld the right to walk into the center of Berlin, pick out any German they wanted, and spank the hell out of them. I made that last one up, but it helps you understand how all of this felt to Germans. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that when a small angry man with a silly mustache came along and said that he could fix everything, the German people loved it. Hitler had been a soldier during World War I, and he was crazy patriotic, and nobody was madder than him about Germany's humiliation. He helped start a new political party, and in 1923 attended a march on Munich with his boys. And then he got arrested.
We learned about him a lot in school.
And in 1933, the president made him chancellor. He believed he was Germany's great destined savior, and he went full megalomania.
Is he touching his balls?
The president made him chancellor. He believed he was Germany's great destined savior, and he went full megalomania, establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had fascist dictator number 2. Hitler and Mussolini had a lot of the same ideas, but more importantly, they had the same enemies, and they started to get along. Anyone else want to be friends? Franco? No? You good? I do. Who's that? It's Japan, and they've taken over northern China.
Japan
Let's
just had
rewind
to
a bit.
get involved.
Japan had isolated itself from the rest of the world for over 200 years until the
But why?
Americans showed up and said, "You're
Like the
gonna."
other video, I was curious about why did Japan have to get involved? For what reason? I think I learned it in school, but I forgot. But I'm very curious. Why would you do
Japan had
that?
isolated itself from the rest of the world for over 200 years until the Americans showed up and said, "You're gonna trade with us and you're gonna like it." Then the Western powers imposed a bunch of unequal treaties, meaning Japan's economy was
didn't give
bust.
them a
They also
choice.
had no natural resources, so they decided to go get some. They went to war with China to gain a sphere of influence over Korea, and they took a bunch of China's stuff. But then the West said, "Hey, cut that out." And since Japan couldn't take on the West, they said, "Okay, I guess we'll just go home." Wait a minute, what are you doing? Taking advantage of a weakened China?
Hold on. I'm so sorry, my lovelies. I don't know why I just started daydreaming for like 2 seconds.
Resources, so they decided to go
Eyes
get
open.
some. They went to war with China to gain a sphere of
Okay,
influence
China.
over Korea, and they took a bunch of China's stuff. But then the
Yeah.
West said, "Hey, cut that out." And since Japan couldn't take on the West, they said, "Okay, I guess we'll just go home." Wait a minute, what are you doing? Taking advantage of a weakened China and setting up spheres of influence. But I was the one who weakened them. We know. And you guys didn't let me have anything. We know. That seems unfair. We don't think so.
That does seem a bit
Okay, see ya.
unfair.
So Japan thought, screw this, and went to war with Russia, and stunned everyone by actually winning. Then they fully annexed Korea, but they didn't.
Japan war against Japan won against Russia. That's crazy. It's a very little country. I do daydream a lot. I don't know how I got good grades. I don't know. I'm a bit dyslexic too. They had the power of anime. It's because I work hard, that's why. They had the power of anime. I just read your oh no. Oh no. They did. They had Luffy, they had Sasuke, they had Naruto by their side.
And went to war
That's
with
why
Russia.
they that's
and
why
stunned
they
everyone
won. The
by
power of friendship.
actually winning. Then they fully annexed Korea, but they didn't stop there. In World War I, they took Germany's colonies and islands in Asia. And then in an incident that was maybe staged by the Japanese army, a bomb blew up a Japanese
Probably.
train in Manchuria, giving
Yeah,
them an
definitely,
excuse
it does
to launch
sound
an
like them.
invasion and take over. So here's the situation.
That's
Nazi Germany,
evil.
Fascist Italy, and Japan all believe they're racially superior, all feel hostility towards the Allies, and all want to militarize and take over more stuff. And so they did. Let's start with Germany. Hitler hated the Treaty of Versailles, and now he was ready
I
to
learned
begin on
about
doing
that in
it.
school.
In complete violation of the treaty, the first Luftwaffe squadrons were set up,
He did not
conscription
give
was
a shit.
introduced, and he pimped up his army. The Allies did nothing. Then
What
Hitler
was
sent his
that
army
dude
back into
there?
the demilitarized Rhineland, giving orders to immediately retreat if the Allies showed up. The Allies did nothing. With his military re-strengthened, he could now move on to step 2. He wanted to rapidly increase the Aryan population, and to do so, he needed Lebensraum. Or in other words, he would have to take over the world. But for now, a good portion of Europe would do, and he began eyeing up his neighbors. The Allies
Damn,
finally
he was
started
like
to get
it's on site with everyone. England. France. Austria? I don't know where's near Germany.
worried,
But
so
yeah,
they implemented a
it's
fairly
on
useless
site.
diplomatic strategy called
He
appeasement,
really
and
eyed
it went a
everyone
little
up.
something like this. Hitler would say, "I want that thing," and the Allies would say, "You can't have that thing." "Okay, you can have that thing, but no more." "I want that thing." And repeat. In 1938, Hitler's army marched into Austria and just took
Austria,
it with
I knew
no
it.
resistance. Boom, this is Germany now. Next, he demanded to be given the
No
Sudetenland, an area of
shame.
Czechoslovakia with many ethnic Germans.
Like, aren't
The
you
Allies had
embarrassed, Hitler?
implemented a fairly useless diplomatic strategy called appeasement, and it went a little something like this. Hitler would say, "I want that thing," and the Allies would say, "You can't have that thing." "Okay, you can have that thing, but no more."
Entitled he is.
"I want that thing." And repeat.
He really
in
wants that
1938,
thing.
Hitler's army marched into
That
Austria and just took
thing,
it
that
with no
thing.
resistance. Boom, this is Germany now.
That
Next, he demanded to be given Austria and just took it with no resistance. Boom, this is Germany now. Next, he demanded to be given the Sudetenland, an
Not
area of
Canada.
Czechoslovakia with many ethnic Germans. The Allies held a meeting with Hitler in Munich and said, "Look, we're going to give you what." Hang on, this meeting is about my
is that?
territory. Shouldn't I come to the meeting
Yeah. Hell yeah.
too? Anyway, we're going to give you what you
That's
want.
so mean.
Really? Yeah. Just like that?
Like mean girls in a school cafeteria.
Yep. What's the catch? Just sign this piece of paper promising you won't invade the rest of Czechoslovakia. Okay. Then Chamberlain returned home victorious, waving his signed piece of paper in the air, declaring crisis to be averted and the continuation war of peace. And we
Yay!
built a statue of Chamberlain in his honor, and every day on the 30th of September we celebrate Chamberlain Day.
I wish
Hitler's
that's
invading
how
the rest
it
of Czechoslovakia.
ended.
What? He's invading
He
the
did
rest
not
of
give it.
Czechoslovakia.
It's just a piece of paper.
You lied to me. What do you expect?
He's a
And
liar,
Hitler,
a
not to
heartless
be
liar.
outdone, Mussolini also wanted to get in on the action. He thought to himself, isn't there a not yet colonized
He's
nation
kinda
somewhere
cute
which is
looking.
so underdeveloped that the people would be defending themselves against our tanks with
Like an
literal
angry
bows and arrows and
toddler.
wooden spears? Oh, there is? Fantastic. And so he took it. Italy also wanted to control the entrance to the Adriatic Sea, so they occupied Albania. Then, in another incident which was maybe staged by the Japanese, gunfire was exchanged by Japanese and Chinese troops at
They
the Marco Polo
definitely
Bridge,
did.
and the Japanese launched yet another invasion against China. They swept through Beijing and Shanghai, and then
Hold on, I did definitely record it. Yeah, that's fine.
advanced through the Yangtze Valley to China's then capital, Nanking. It was here that saw the worst of Japan's shocking atrocities committed against the Chinese people. Back in Europe, Germany and Italy made their relationship status official by signing the Pact of Steel.
Relationship
Then,
status.
Hitler turned his eyes towards Poland and the hated Polish corridor, splitting Germany in two. At this point, the Allies really had to put their foot down,
The
and they warned him
OCD.
that an invasion of Poland would mean war.
It just
Hitler had
needs to
planned to
connect.
continue his advance eastward,
I mean,
but he didn't
no,
want to
no,
end
it
up
shouldn't,
fighting a
it
war on
shouldn't.
two fronts. So
It's
for
just
now, he made
freaking
an
me
alliance
out.
with Stalin, saying, how about we both invade Poland and split it between the two of us, and I definitely won't not refrain from not betraying you sometime in the future.
You'll definitely betray him.
Sounds...
Don't! Look at his
Good.
track history.
This new alliance stunned the West. On the 1st of September 1939, German troops entered Poland, and Britain and France declared war on
That's
Germany.
a big place. Yeah.
The Poles
Good.
fought hard, but they were no match for the two giants crashing down on them from either side. Then came a period known as the Phony War, where everyone just sort of sat around not doing much.
Phony.
The French had launched a small invasion into the Saarland, but they maintained mostly defensive positions, and after a while decided to just turn around and call it a day.
Who wants
Speaking
to
of
go
France, the
home?
French were still super proud of their victory in World War I, and they hadn't really moved on from it. They still used horses, they dispatched messages by...
The French really hung on to their celebration. I do that too. When I get overly happy, when I celebrate, I don't move on. So I kind of relate. Very relatable French people.
motorbike instead of
Very
using radio.
relatable
Orders from
France.
the commander-in-chief were
I am
usually
a
pretty
yapper,
vague,
sorry.
and the troops were rarely inspected. They built a line of defenses
Let me go
along the
back.
chief were usually pretty because they dispatched messages by motorbike instead of using radio. Orders from the
Motorbike?
commander-in-chief were usually pretty vague,
Do
and the
drills
troops were
and stuff.
rarely inspected. They built a line of defenses along their German border, but didn't bother extending it all the way to the Channel, and they wouldn't launch artillery strikes against Germany
Half-assed.
out of fear of being retaliated against. In a war, they
Action
didn't want to
being
attack
done.
the enemy. And at first the UK wasn't much better. Chamberlain still naively hoped that the war could be ended diplomatically. Instead of bombing raids, the RAF dropped propaganda leaflets over German cities, which one air marshal said likely did nothing but provide the continent with toilet paper for the duration of the war. They also only sent 200,000 men to France, while the French had mobilized millions. Both Britain and France wanted to avoid a repeat of the First World War, and so they wanted to keep the war as far from home as possible. So they turned their eyes north, towards Norway. Neutral Sweden was exporting
Norway?
iron ore to Germany through neutral Norway. So the Allies asked them if they could please stop exporting iron ore to
Hey, could you please stop exporting iron to Germany? Very nice. Very, very, very cutesy. Very demure. That was respectful,
Germany.
boy.
But this request was
You
refused.
phone who did.
Then the Soviet Union attacked Finland. So the Allies said, how about we land troops in Norway and move them across Sweden to go help out your good pal Finland, and along the way maybe take control of all your armfields. But Norway and Sweden still
Wait,
said
he
no.
mumbled.
The Soviet Union attacked Finland. So the Allies said, how about we land troops in Norway and move them across Sweden to go help out your good pal Finland, and along the way maybe take control of all your armfields. But Norway and Sweden still said no. So the UK mined the waters around Norway to force any transport ships into international waters, and they also attacked a German tanker they found in the area. Hitler realized what the Allies were up to, and he quickly moved to secure his supply of iron ore. He launched an invasion through Denmark into Norway. The Allies rushed to land troops at key ports along the coast, but Germany had taken control of Norway's airfield, and their air superiority decided the fight. The Allies had to retreat. After this slightly embarrassing
Damn
failure,
it.
Chamberlain resigned and was replaced with Winston Churchill, who had a slightly
Oh.
different approach to dealing with
Yeah,
the
we
Germans.
learned a
Hitler's
lot
overall
about
strategy
him
was similar to Germany's First
school.
World War strategy. Attack France,
He's a smart
defeat
dude.
France, knocking out the UK in the process, then turn on the Soviet Union and win the war. During the Phony War, the Allies had given Hitler
One by
time
one.
to prepare his forces. Now,
Ah.
he was ready to attack. The Allies had wanted to place troops in Belgium, but Belgium had refused, and in a move that's
Wait, let me read
was
that. I
ready
love the
to
little
attack.
text
The Allies
messages.
had wanted to place troops in
Hey
Belgium.
man, could you let our armies in?
But Belgium
That's
had
cute. How dare I doing this again? Used to be good. The France is so cute. Belgium, come on.
refused, and in a move that
Let
surprised
him.
pretty much no
Let
one,
him.
Hitler launched an invasion to get around France's defenses. The Allies charged into Belgium at full speed to meet the German invasion head-on, and it looked like a repeat of the First World War was coming. But this time, Hitler had a trick up his sleeve.
Oh no, did he?
Blitzkrieg. As the Germans advanced, they sent thousands of
What did he
refugees
do?
westward, slowing down the Allies. Then, to the south, the French
That's so
had left the
evil.
Ardennes, an area full of hills and forests, pretty underdefended because they thought it was naturally impenetrable. Well, the Germans were about to penetrate it with everything they had. They smashed 50 Wehrmacht divisions through and encircled the Allied armies at lightning speed. The best of the Allied forces were now trapped. The Germans squeezed
Oh
in from
no.
all sides,
Oh
taking out
no.
France's best armies.
The only time I am rooting for England during this, back then.
Nearly wiping out the British
You're
too,
such
but they managed to make a
colonisers, but
desperate
this-
last-minute
come on.
escape at Dunkirk,
Come on,
with British
England.
civilian ships even making the perilous journey to bring their young men home. With most of the French forces
No.
depleted, the Germans breezed through, taking Paris,
No.
and France fell. What the Germans couldn't do in World War I, Hitler had done just like that.
At least we're fine.
Hitler
I'm
hoped
joking.
that with the fall of France, the UK would also lose hope
At least
and
we're
sue for peace.
standing.
But quite annoyingly, it didn't, and he needed to secure the Western Front. So he tried to force them into submission with mind games. The UK
Mind
were now
games?
all alone, and Hitler wanted
Manipulation.
to
Number one,
emphasize that.
manipulation.
First of all, just before
Manipulator.
France fell, Italy finally declared war on the Allies, making the UK's situation even worse. Next, instead of just occupying all of France, Hitler occupied the coastal areas for defense, but allowed France to continue its existence as a German puppet state. This way, it looked like the UK's old ally had decided to switch sides. Hitler also hoped that the UK wouldn't attack any of her old allies'
It
navy
does seem
bases
like
or
they're
colonies in
winning.
Africa, giving Hitler an extra line of defense to the south. But the UK made sure
I hate him, but he is kind of smart. But why does it seem like we're winning? They're winning.
to respond
I mean,
to this by
clearly
sailing
not.
down to France's navy base in Algeria and wrecking a bunch of ships. So have at it. Hitler then began laying down plans for an invasion of Great Britain. Before German troops could land on British soil, he would first need air and naval superiority across the Channel. Waves of German bombers came, while the completely outnumbered RAF worked bravely around the clock in an attempt to quell the German attacks. At first, the Luftwaffe targeted British ports and coastal facilities. Then it attacked RAF bases, crippling the RAF's ability to defend the nation. And it looked like Hitler's Great British invasion was coming. But then, Churchill ordered a small, pretty insignificant bombing raid over Berlin.
I think I heard this from somewhere, but I believe there's like 150 bunkers in England, I believe, and it's kind of crazy because if there was another world war, what are we gonna do? It's not really bunkers here. And yeah, our Prime Minister told us, yeah, if war happens, go to your local bunker. And I'm like thinking, what? It's probably like 2 hours away.
Didn't do much damage, but Hitler was furious, and he immediately ordered the Luftwaffe to refocus its attacks on civilian targets in London. Children were sent off to the countryside, away from their parents to avoid danger, and frequent trips to air raid shelters became a daily
learned
occurrence. But
about
British
that in
morale
school,
held firm.
yeah.
Smiling, knitting, lounging casually, these people have balls of steel. This refocusing on London also gave the RAF breathing space to reorganize, so Hitler kind of shot himself in the foot there. Just the foot for now. Finally, the Luftwaffe
I mean,
sent
no.
one massive-
What do you mean, I'm not. What the hell was that, Tech? No. Good. Love to see
Steel.
that.
This refocusing on London also
that's
gave
so
the
not
RAF
me. Wait,
breathing
let me
space
change
to
my
reorganize,
reaction a
so
bit.
Hitler kind of shot himself in the foot there.
Yeah, love to see
Just
that.
a foot for now. Finally, the Luftwaffe sent one massive all-out attack on London, and the RAF successfully repelled it, destroying many of the German aircraft and placing air superiority firmly in British
Hell
hands.
yeah.
Hitler's invasion had to be postponed, but the bombing of British cities continued for some time.
Part 2. I'm gonna watch part 2 tomorrow, actually. There's so much to be acted out. It's super interesting. I definitely did learn a lot from school, so it's not new information. We got proper into this in school. Yeah, we got proper into this in school, and it was just homework after homework. It's not new, but I did learn a lot too at the same time, like the in-betweens, what happened in between. And I really liked it. Let me get it up. I definitely should do like streams here and there of like learning stuff. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy reacting to these kind of stuff. Yes, it does take a bit of time for me to understand stuff, because I do admit I'm a bit slow, just a tad bit. It's hard for me to understand stuff straight away. I do have to go back a bit, but I'm learning. Yes, big brain. Yes, I'm getting there. So yeah, I would love to watch part 2, but we have stuff to react to.